1 month into an e-scooter pilot project and already complaints about how they're being used. A huge spike in the cost of lumber, but it's not stopping parklets from popping up in the city. A live look outside. What a wonderful weather weekend it was for the long weekend. 36 degrees right now, though, with the humidex. Colette Kennedy with a look at this week's forecast tonight. I'm Chris Hensing. Thanks for joining us. We start with developing news. Ontario announcing the first death of a person who developed rare blood clots after receiving a dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine.
This individual was a male in his 40s, and he received a first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine toward the end of April, and unfortunately passed away a few weeks later.
He says the investigation is ongoing and the cause of the man's death has not been officially determined. But the man had what's known as vaccine-induced thrombotic thrombocytopenia, or VIT, when he died. Yaffe said the province has now seen 13 cases that meet that criteria. Now, this comes as pharmacies in Windsor, Essex are starting to receive second doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine, but many places that offered first doses back in March aren't doing so again. It's creating confusion for those who aren't sure how to get their second dose. With more, I'm joined live by CBC's Sanjay Maru. Sanjay, on Friday, we knew doses were coming, but we didn't know when. What do we know today?
Well, Chris, I reached out to a few pharmacies in the region, and they all say they received exactly 50 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine today. But not all pharmacies that offered it back in March are doing so this week. As you mentioned, Chris, according to the province, in March, 57 pharmacies in Windsor, Essex offered first doses. But today's list from the health unit has just 24 offering those second doses. Among those who got their first dose at a pharmacy not part of the new list is Emily Holland's mother. Holland's helping her mom book her second dose. She says her mom got that first dose at a pharmacy in Bell River on March 12th. When she called them last week, she learned they were not administering second doses. So she called up other pharmacies, but was told they're prioritizing people who got their first shot there. Now she's frustrated as she scrambles to figure out how her mother can get that second dose.
She's at the point now where she's giving up and hoping that maybe the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine gets approved for second dosage, but she's completely beside herself, especially if things come out where restrictions are put in place for people who are not fully vaccinated. That's not their problem. It's not that they didn't choose not to get vaccinated. It's kind of like a soul-crushing feeling because we've been waiting so long for vaccines.
Sanjay, there's a lot of confusion here. How are pharmacies dealing with the rollout?
Well, Chris, the biggest issue they're facing is just fielding the hundreds of calls coming in. One pharmacy owner I spoke with says they administered 210 doses of AstraZeneca between March 10th and the 19th. But remember, they received just 50 doses. So for the others, they're being told they'll have to wait for a future shipment of AstraZeneca to arrive. Today, however, was a big shock to the Windsor Avenue pharmacy. On Friday, I spoke to the owner there who was expecting to get second doses, but over the weekend, he says he received an email from the health unit, a survey which he needed to fill out or else he would not receive any vaccines. Since they're closed over the holiday, he didn't see that email. And when you look at the health unit's list released today, you'll see Windsor Avenue Pharmacy is nowhere to be found. The result is a phone line that's been blowing up all day and calls that have ended in disappointment.
It's difficult to, be the person that patients are looking to for answers and have no answers. So apologizing to everyone and saying, I'm sorry, I hope that we'll have shots soon. And they ask when, and I say, I don't know. And it's not having answers is a difficult thing to do here because everyone is looking for help and guidance from the pharmacy. And we're not providing a whole lot of that right now. We're just kind of waiting.
And another pharmacist I spoke with says for those unable to get their shot this week, it may not necessarily be a bad thing. Research suggests the maximum effectiveness of the AstraZeneca vaccine is at 12 weeks. And for those who got their first dose between March 10th and the 19th, they're currently in week 10. Meanwhile, the health unit says in the event of a shortage, they would reach out for more supply from the province. But if you're among those eligible to get your second dose of AstraZeneca, it's not a certainty that you'll be able to get it this week. Chris.
Thanks, Sanjay. CBC Sanjay Maru live tonight. And there's an update now on the case count in Windsor, Essex. The health unit reporting 50 new cases across 2 days. 34 are from Monday, 16 were reported today. As for vaccinations, 52% of the population of Windsor, Essex has at least one dose. And now anyone who is 12 or older can book an appointment for a vaccine. And the health unit is in discussions about consolidating the mass vaccination sites in Windsor into one The former Sears space at Devonshire Mall is being considered as one of the potential locations.
These are sites that are for other purposes, and those conversations are just beginning to happen. It's a timing issue for sure. We want to make sure that we have as many people vaccinated as we can with first doses, and we will be beginning our second doses soon.
And the health unit also reporting a potential public exposure to COVID-19 at TD Canada Trust Bank in Bell River. Days of possible exposure between May 12th and 14th, May 17th and 18th. The bank is at 380 Notre Dame Street. Complaints coming into the city of Windsor about the misuse of e-scooters. The service has been around for less than a month. CBC Windsor's Dale Molnar reports many users not following the rules.
People are pretty much obeying this sign when it comes to the Bird Canada e-scooters, but CBC News has found several people breaking every one of the rules posted right on the scooters. People riding double, on the sidewalk, without helmets. Riders are supposed to be 18, but we've seen plenty of children under that age riding them. Even adults are riding double with their children and no helmets.
One that makes me the most nervous are the ones I see with the babies strapped on in a cloth carrier with their little bald heads sticking out, you know.
Lisa Doig was walking along the sidewalk in front of her building one day and was confronted by 3 young men riding on the sidewalk.
So I just threw out, hey fellas, you're not supposed to be on the sidewalk with Jose. And they swore at me and they did baby cries, like that kind of mentality, you know.
CBC News has found the e-scooters left blocking sidewalks, obstacles for elderly people and people in wheelchairs.
I think there needs a lot more oversight on this program. As far as I'm concerned, people are leaving them everywhere. Right. Like I said, if you're going to use them, return them.
I see you riding on the sidewalk.
No, it is what it is.
It is what it is, but you're not supposed to do it.
Well, they'd let me ride it if I couldn't, right?
The active transportation coordinator for the city says a handful of people have complained to 311.
We're definitely monitoring the concerns from residents and making sure that Bird is doing everything that they can to address them.
The CEO of Bird Canada says they can fine people $10 to $15 for misuse and have ways of monitoring how they are left behind through the app used to rent them.
You know, first time you get a warning, second time you get a fine, and then third time we can actually revoke your account.
Stuart Lyons says he was going to talk to Bird Canada employees after speaking with CBC on Friday to make sure they intervene if they see people breaking the rules. The company tweeted over the weekend to Windsor residents a reminder to ride safe and follow the scooting rules. As of Sunday, the scooters were not available between 1 and 5 in the morning. Lyons says the company will soon hold a safety information day in downtown Windsor. They'll hand out free helmets and go through the safe riding rules. It will be scheduled as pandemic restrictions allow. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
Bird Canada says they've changed those hours because of misuse and that employees are now trying to advise people of the rules whenever they can, particularly at night. The patio weather officially here, but getting one built, it's going to cost you a lot more this year. Well, a historic spike in the cost of lumber is making it more expensive to make anything new out of wood. It isn't stopping everybody from building their outdoor oasis. Jacob Barker has more.
These parklets were a saving grace for many last summer, giving Windsorites a safe way to dine out during the pandemic and one that was allowed.
So we are taking 2 parking spots.
Cafe March 21 wants to get in on the action this year and has applied to have a parklet put in. The owner hopes it's approved before restrictions are lifted on outdoor dining.
My family got all vaccinated, and a lot of people like in Windsor are getting vaccinated, so I think we're looking good. So hopefully first start of June or at least end of June we'll be able to have some outdoor sittings.
Kim says he's not sure exactly how much more he's paying this year than last, but it's quite a bit more. Even so, the restaurant is seeing a busy lunch rush and it's on the same street as the farmers market. He says he thinks the investment will have itself paid off in a few months.
The farmers market this year has been really successful. It has been at least double the number of people we get than last year. So just the Saturday itself is worth it. I think it's gonna pay off the cost pretty quick.
Well, you have to remortgage your house and sell your automobile and maybe dip into your child's education. But yeah, I mean the deck and fence business right now is pretty crazy.
Gordon Raymond is kidding, but he says it's costing him about 70% more to get the wood than it did last year.
We'll do what we can, but you're looking at an average of maybe $2,000 to $3,000 more for a job that, you know, should probably cost about 8 to 10 grand.
Despite the added cost, he says there's a huge demand right now for the structures he's building.
In 25 years, never seen such a demand for backyard design, especially the custom stuff that we do. A lot of people are, you know, spending more time at home, enjoying their backyards.
Raymond says it's supply and demand right now, and those that want to get renovations like these done don't really have a choice. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
As people continue to struggle to find affordable housing in the region, the federal government offered an update on a project in Tecumseh. The 99-unit building, which has been slated to receive a low-cost construction loan of more than $25 million, will make at least a third of its units affordable.
You know, the very people who keep Windsor-Tecumseh running and vibrant, people like teachers, nurses, shopkeepers, paramedics, and firefighters, those people are finding it harder and harder to afford rent in Windsor-Tecumseh. So what are they doing? They're being forced to move further and further away, which is due in large part to a lack of a good rental supply.
It's anticipated that the affordable units will offer rent at or 30% below the household median income in the area. The building, which is called the Tecumseh Gateway Tower, is located on Tecumseh Road East, just off Banwell Road. Construction on the units started in the fall of last year, and they should be completed early next year. Recovery efforts continue on the water near Windsor today after a man was spotted struggling near Sandpoint Beach. The call came in on Saturday around 5 p.m. Multiple agencies searching for a man in his 20s. The search was put on pause overnight. It's now a recovery effort with crews on the water today searching for the man's body. A second call came in while police were searching the water Sunday. 2 kayakers capsized near Pesh Island, both suffering from hypothermia but pulled out of the water safely. I spent some time at the Lakeview Marina today where Constable Pete Piazzantine gave us a sense of what they're seeing on the water this year.
In any case where we have a serious incident occurring on the water, we flood the area with as many assets as possible. We even reach out to our U.S. counterparts and they come and assist us with any major incident on the water. When it comes to water safety, people need to understand that the water can be dangerous if it is not respected. We have fast-moving currents, which can take a canoe, a kayak, a stand-up paddleboard, or a boat downriver quickly. The water temperature currently is actually quite cold, and hypothermia can set in quite quickly. In today's day and age, with the current restrictions that we're under, we're finding that boating has increased a lot. A lot of more people are getting their licenses. We've got a lot of new kayakers, a lot of new boaters, a lot of new people out there trying different things, and we notice an increase in calls for service for us on the water. Inside this booklet is all the information that any boater, kayaker, or person on a canoe requires for safety. If anybody wants one of these, they can definitely come find us, whether it be at Lakeview Marina or on the water, flag us down. We do carry these in our vessels at all times, and we will be gladly willing to provide one to anybody who wants one. Compliance-wise, we have a lot of people who understand the importance of life jackets, but we do see people still out there boating, canoeing, kayaking without the proper life-saving equipment. It is important to know that if you are caught out on the water without the proper life jacket, your voyage will be terminated by the police and sent back to shore for your safety.
After a prolonged shutdown, the Windsor Assembly Plant is expected to start running again next week. Stellantis says it will be a partial shift. They've been getting issues with these microchips. The company says they continue to work close with suppliers, trying to limit the impact that's caused by supply chain issues. A live look outside there as we see the Ambassador Bridge. A bit of a cloudy, hazy day, kind of the opposite of what we were able to enjoy over the weekend. Colette Kennedy is going to give us a look at this short week's forecast next. Just an absolute scorcher in Windsor today, made for a perfect time to head to a local splash pad for some fun. CBC News talked to some parents about how they keep themselves and their kids cool during these sizzling summer days.
Well, I think that the southern heat has definitely rolled in, and the kids, unfortunately, with nothing left to do, at least there's these minimal things that they do have the option to do. And as toddlers and things like, they don't understand COVID and restrictions and things like that, so they do need some sort of outlet to be able to have fun and still be a kid.
It's perfect. I'm glad that they're open. I don't know what else we would do. It's nice for them to be able to play outside and have fun and cool down.
Yeah, it's fantastic for them. It lets them cool off and let them, get around with the other ones. Just basically, let them have a good time, I would say.
Well, I'm definitely grateful that the splash pads are open. The heat is definitely a little too much, so them running in the water is definitely what they need.
It's awesome. It's a great way to socialize while being outside and socially distancing and being able to keep cool this summer.
It certainly was absolutely beautiful this weekend, Claire. I hope you're able to pop out and have some fun yourself. But the skies, I guess, are getting a little dark here. What's going on?
Well, I do have something I want to tell you about. Yeah, in terms of we've got a lunar eclipse coming up, but it's just unfortunate the timing's not going to be great for us to see this because it happens tomorrow morning. So basically, the sun will be kind of up and it's more difficult. Those on like the West Coast will have a better chance of seeing it, but it is a lunar eclipse, and you may have heard talk about this when it has a few nicknames, as they often do, but this is a super moon, but it's also the flower blood moon. And part of the blood, that's because of the coloration that it can get into towards tomorrow morning. Flower, because it's May and we're into spring. And super moon, now this is something you can get a look at tonight. It should appear rather large in the sky, and it's just because in its orbit it's closer to Earth. So maybe you see the supermoon, and if you do want to actually see the lunar eclipse towards tomorrow morning, around 7:15, it'll be about halfway through, so you can watch it online. NASA will be broadcasting it. Might be kind of cool to watch it there, but by the time you get to about 8 or just after, it's going to be over with, okay? Here, daytime highs for today. Actually, we peaked up towards 32 degrees here in Windsor, and those temperatures really holding with the humidity as well. Our humidex values, you'll see those in just a moment. The current temperature is 29, feeling like 33. We were up in the mid-30s with that humidex. There are areas of the province still with a special weather statement, just kind of reminding folks, hey, when it's like this, you need to make sure you stay hydrated. Trying to see a few things kind of bubbling up here. Not a lot, just a few kind of stray showers or leftover remnants of thunderstorms into the evening and overnight hours. That changes dramatically as we go towards tomorrow morning. This will begin to fill in as we start to see this frontal boundary approaching. We'll see the winds kicking up from the southwest. We'll get into more widespread rain showers, some embedded thunderstorms, so locally some heavier downpours in here. And eventually, this will change the winds and exchange the air mass. And so those dew points will come down. The stickiness of the air will come down. Tomorrow into the afternoon, you'll just gradually see our temperature actually falling off. We'll be at about 28 in the morning, 25 by the time we get to the afternoon. And overnight lows don't provide much relief right now. So there's that 25 by afternoon. But then things start to dry out in terms of how it feels into Thursday, sunny, cooler, 18. Speaking of cooler, another system coming through with some rain that we need, and 13 degrees on Friday. But then we'll take it back in the other direction, Chris, for the weekend.
Not bad at all. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
The fight for police reform continues as today marks 1 year since George Floyd was killed. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the U.S. plans to reopen its consulate in Jerusalem in a move to restore ties with Palestinians. Washington also promising millions towards humanitarian relief and new aid to help rebuild Gaza.
We're also working in partnership with the United Nations, the international community, the Palestinian Authority, the Palestinian people, the government of Israel, to assist in the relief and recovery efforts in Gaza. This relief is urgent. We have to respond to the profound need to help people in this moment.
The U.S. also says it would provide $75 million in development and economic aid to the Palestinians, but it plans to do so without the humanitarian aid going to Hamas, which U.S. regards as a terrorist organization. This is the 5th day since the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas came into effect. Before visiting the West Bank, Blinken also met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, where the two discussed regional security and the country's defense needs. Blinken also underscored the Biden administration's support for Israel. Today marks 1 year since the killing of George Floyd. His murder by Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin sparked worldwide protests against racism and policing. Several events are taking place to honor Floyd, including a visit to the White House by his family. Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
A year after they lost George Floyd under the knee of a white police officer, his family is in Washington as Congress struggles to pass the police reform bill conceived in his name. His brother says he wants to make sure that nobody else goes through what his family is suffering.
We're just thankful for what's going on, and we just want this George Floyd Policing Act to be passed in the future.
The mobile phone footage of George Floyd slowly dying as Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin knelt on his neck for more than 9 minutes went around the world. And around the world, hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets to protest his killing. Last month, Derek Chauvin was found guilty of murder and manslaughter. But the Floyd family's fight for police reform continues as they urge Congress to pass the legislation that bears George Floyd's name. In Ottawa, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau reaffirmed his commitment to address racism.
Mr. Floyd's death was a tragedy, and it was a reminder that there are still too many people living with anti-Black racism and injustice, including here in Canada. We will continue to take real action to fight systemic racism and create more opportunities for Black Canadians and for everyone.
Despite the public calls to action, President Biden's meeting with Mr. Floyd's family was private.
He has a close relationship with them, or they've really impacted him in their courage and grace over the last year, and he felt
that meetings can only do so much. Without progress on Capitol Hill, police reform will stall, and George Floyd's family will have to keep fighting for the justice that he was denied. Kate Fisher for CBC News in Washington.
Lots of thrilled Winnipeg Jets fans after the team swept the Edmonton Oilers out of the NHL playoffs.
We're feeling incredible for the Winnipeg Jets. #1, baby, yeah!
This is good for the city. We need the morale. With what's going on, this is exactly what we needed.
Jets winger Kyle Connor scored in triple overtime to give the team a 4-3 victory. The win gave the Jets a 4-game sweep of the best-of-7 first-round series. Winnipeg will face the winner of the Toronto Maple Leafs versus Montreal Canadiens in the second round. Game 4 of that series, it's coming up at 7:30. And that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. And that includes an update on the AstraZeneca pilot project, so you can understand where those second doses are available for those who have gotten their first dose at a pharmacy here in our region. We're also on social media as well. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Rick Mercer Report is up next. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.